is Green Screen Forecast, your host Ivan Kamau. As yes, now it is turning stormy, and I'll talk to you about what's ahead with ways you can stay up to date with the latest forecast before I end off with those temperature trends from the Climate Prediction Center. So make sure you watch this video all the way to the end. And we start off with this graphic from our friends at the Storm Prediction Center showing you this for Tuesday, April 14th. And as you can see, there's a slight risk over parts of the plains as far up to the north as Iowa. And I think this during the day on Tuesday is where storms will be focused, just to our north. However, we'll have to keep an eye on where storms initiate, and that's one challenging part of the forecast to determine how strong those storms might be when they get closer to our region, especially over parts of northeastern Missouri and west central Illinois. But there's questions on how much instability we'll have, which that is one key factor for having stronger storms. And so whatever happens on Tuesday or late Tuesday for parts of our region will determine what happens on Wednesday, especially for areas further out to the west where we already have a 15% probability for some stronger storms. And on Wednesday we could see some more additional thunderstorm development, but it depends on what happens in the previous round. If we do stay dry and storms stay further up to the north than we were thinking, then these storms could be a little bit stronger, especially for areas west of St. Louis over western Missouri. But if we do see those previous storms eat up some of the storm fuel, that's going to keep these storms a bit weaker. And so one big question is how much instability we'll have. But as we know, the forecast is changing, and I'll be watching it for you closely over on my socials. But you also, you know the drill. You want to always have yourself a NOAA weather radio. Replace the batteries on them because alerts come immediately. Also, I have an extra step here. Make sure your NOAA weather radio is toggled to on. Some NOAA weather radios, especially this specific one, has that on the side, because if it's toggled to off, even if it doesn't look like the NOAA weather radio is off, you miss out on those very crucial warnings. And so make sure your NOAA weather radio is toggled to on so you can get the latest forecast, whether it's just a general 5 or 7 day forecast or just the latest information from a National Weather Service. You can get it by making sure it's toggled to on. Now, you of course can also have your phone, and so make sure you get yourself a NOAA weather radio by heading over to midlandusa.com so that I, as well as our friends at the National Weather Service, can keep you safe during the 2026 spring severe weather season. Now, looking at this additional graphic from Northern Illinois University, getting into those latter portions of April, we still see chances for more thunderstorms and increased severe weather potential over parts of the plains. And again, just like what we're keeping an eye on over the next few days, whatever happens further out to the west will determine how storms behave closer to our region, but we're just still seeing those increased signals for some stronger thunderstorms as we get into those latter portions of April. And now let's start to wrap up the video with those temperature trends in the Climate Prediction Center. This 6 to 10 day temperature outlook getting us into those latter portions of April shows you those above normal temperatures dominating the United States, especially for areas down to the southeast, where I like to call this a southeastern ridge of high pressure. These areas well into the 80s with high pressure bringing them dry weather can even bring fire danger, especially over for parts of the southeast. Parts of Alabama and Georgia have to watch out for fire danger when you're just dealing with the warmth and dry conditions. So that's just something to keep on your radar if you have any friends and family down there. But again, it's a southeastern ridge of high pressure for now. Of course, we will eventually get changes, but we've seen that very consistently, especially even in that 8 to 14 day temperature outlook, still seeing those signs of above normal temperatures, not just for us here in Missouri and Illinois, but even for parts of the southeast. And our normal highs for this time of the year now ranging in the mid to upper 60s, eventually approaching that 70-degree mark. So this would be temperatures much warmer than that in the 80s, especially for those down in the southeast. They know what I'm talking about. Notice this in this 3 to 4 week temperature outlook. You notice how it wants to start showing a bit of that cooler air moving our way, especially getting into the end and even early parts of May 2026. And so, like I said in my last video, while we're seeing these above normal temperatures consistent in our model guidance and even with what the Climate Prediction Center is showing, I can't still roll out a few brief cool downs. And that's the reason why, while I don't want you to be afraid if you've started planning, because I know the grass is even turning green as well, just know we can always get a few brief cool downs, maybe a few more frost or freezes before we fully transition into spring. So don't let these above normal temperatures always deceive you, because if you're further up up to the north, you could always get some brief cool downs that just shock people, especially as we get closer and closer to the end of spring and then eventually summer. But I don't know how many people are thinking that far out. Just want to let you know, while we have above normal temperatures, do watch for those brief cool downs as well. And so of course it just seems like there's always something to watch. Probably wondering, hopefully Alvin can get a small break from green screen forecast for a little bit. Well, we'll keep an eye on our weather, and when I see a Sunday where there's not a lot to talk about, then I'll take a bit of a break. But of course, until then, I definitely want to make sure I'm keeping you informed and safe, so make sure you download X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Also on Instagram at Weather with Alvin. Same with Threads. I have a big audience on all of my social media platforms, so feel free to follow me over on there. The link, of course, down to my X page is down in the description so that you can get the latest updates in case anything does change. But until then, an active pattern getting into these mid and latter portions of April that I'll keep an eye on closely, even when I'm not able to upload. So make sure you follow me on my socials for the latest.